So on board the International Space Station on Tuesday, NASA astronaut Mike Hopkins is going to be doing some more work on one of the spacesuits on board that the astronauts use for spacewalks. This one in particular, the one that was worn by Luca Parmitano back in his July spacewalk that developed a water leak in it. Now, we've been doing a lot of work, over the past couple of months. Here to tell me about what's going to be happening tomorrow, Alex Kanelakos, one of our EVA flight controllers and crew instructors. So, Alex, again, this is all it's that suit that had the water leak back in July. Been doing a lot of work. What's been done up until this point?
And that's correct, Ian. So, kind of big picture EVA. When the astronauts go outside, they're kind of like Superman.
Mm-hmm.
They wear a spacesuit. They're going into extreme dangerous environment, and they go out and save the day by fixing or repairing something on the space station. So our spacesuit is really what protects the crew members from the harmful and harsh environments of space.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have been doing since the incident last summer is trying to fix and repair our spacesuit. And we've been removing and replacing several components on the spacesuit and doing screen checks to basically try to evaluate and reproduce the failure and resolve what's happened on our spacesuit. So we've most recently replaced a fan pump water separator on our spacesuit and did a screen test. And after that screen test, we successfully were able to not reproduce the failure. So we think that was the attributing issue of our failure last summer.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are now tasked to do now is to basically return to service this particular spacesuit so that we can use it in the future for other crew members and other spacewalks.
And so, up until this point, that spacesuit's it's not ready to go. If they needed to do a spacewalk, they wouldn't be able to use that suit.
That's correct. So we currently have 4 spacesuits on orbit, and this is one of those 4.
Mm-hmm.
So this spacesuit is not go for EVA.
Okay, now what are you guys going to be doing tomorrow to do all this verification to make sure that it's going to be ready and safe for these astronauts?
Well, in order to return it to service, we have several different checkouts or checks steps that we have to do. So we'll first be turning on the suit, powering it up, and we'll be doing comm and data checks with the crew member. So not only voice audio to make sure that our radio is functioning and our antenna is functioning, but also all the data. And we have several different frequencies that we use and radios that we use. So several different configurations.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we'll be basically doing a performance check of our suit. We'll be looking at the amps, the volts of our battery. We'll be running the fan and the water pump and separator to basically see what the performance is looking at. And we'll be getting data on the ground and evaluating the spacesuit's telemetry.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we will be looking to see, is the spacesuit's cooling loop running properly? Is it able to take the air bubbles that are in the coolant loop and degas the coolant loop, making sure that our water separator is functioning as well. Then what we'll be doing is we'll be getting into several leak checks. So we'll first start a 30-minute water leak check. So we'll run the fan for 30 minutes and pressurize the loop to 15 psi delta. And at that point, we'll come back 30 minutes later and inspect many surfaces and many orifices and interfaces of our suit to make sure that our spacesuit isn't leaking once we pressurize the coolant loop. After that, we will pressurize the entire spacesuit. So we'll put our O2 into a 4.3 psi delta, and we'll pressurize the entire spacesuit. And with our bleed orifice in our spacesuit, we will actually be able to pressure our suit above the normal 4.3 pressure that the crew members go outside the door with. So we'll pressurize it up, and once it gets high enough to an adequate level, we'll take our O2 lever and basically move it into the off position so that we're no longer feeding the pressure, and we're allowed to basically see how tight our suit is, and we'll do a gas leak check from that standpoint. So those are the checkouts that we'll be doing tomorrow.
Okay, so real big picture, we're basically going to put the suit in a configuration almost that an astronaut who is wearing it would be in. and even going above and beyond that, a little bit of extra pressure just to see if we have any issues.
Right. So for a normal EVA, we do several checkouts before the spacewalk, but this is kind of going beyond those normal beyond the normal checkouts, just to make sure that this suit is able to return back to an EVA performance.
Okay, and again, NASA astronaut Mike Hopkins is going to be doing those checkouts on board the station tomorrow on Tuesday. Teams down here on the ground, including Alex, will be walking along with him throughout those procedures. Alex, thanks for giving us kind of the nitty-gritty on everything that's going on tomorrow. Been following the spacesuit story very closely, and we'll look forward to all those checkouts tomorrow. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Dan.